Season 5 of Ninjala has been around for about 2 weeks now, and with it comes a brand new season pass, variations on some of our previous weapon classes, and of course a brand new tutorial for new ninjas. A tutorial that honestly is much better than what the devs had before. But with a new tutorial come new ninjas who may not know what weapon to start with. What's going to be the first weapon you choose to play with, or they choose to play with? Well, with most players, they're probably going to settle in with the most standard weapon in the game, the Katana. And in this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about the Katana class in Ninjala. So strap in, because this guide is made especially for all you new ninjas out there. And before I get into it, I want to apologize for how long this video took to get out and took to make. I was making like so many other videos. This video was meant to be out like a week ago, and I just was really busy. But strap in, because we're starting with the Ninjala Katana Guide. Hello ladies and gentlemen and all the core gamers out there, CAJman777 here today to bring you yet another weapon guide. And this time around, we're going to be talking about the weapon that most people will probably end up starting with in Ninjala. As always, this is installment number 8 of my weapon guide series, and today we're going to, of course, be talking about the Ippon Katanas and the Katana class of weapon. Now, unlike some of my previous guides, this guide may seem a bit longer, and definitely will be a bit longer, mainly because this guide is going to focus on teaching new ninjas who just joined the game in Season 5 to use the weapons rather than ninjas who have been playing the game for a longer time period. However, in this guide, I do still have some stuff for you more experienced ninjas out there, but for this guide, I'm also only going to be covering the 2 main katanas that came out on the game's release. Yes, I am aware that there was a new katana type added in Season 5, but they are variations of existing weapon classes, and for those weapons, I will actually be covering them in a mini guide series later down the line. So whether you're a new or experienced ninja, if you're enjoying these guides, make sure to hit that like button, as well as feeling free to hit that subscribe button for more Ninjala content. Either way, I think this intro has gone on for long enough, so let's jump right into our guide on the katanas. This, of course, like all my previous guides, is an in-depth analysis and breakdown of everything the katana classes have to offer. From the weapons to the combos, I will be showing off everything with both variations of these katanas. Much like my previous guides, though, there is going to be some information that may repeat, so I will try and get through that as quickly as possible, while still explaining as much as I can for the newer players. Along with that, I'd also like to say that every weapon in Ninjala will change as patches come out, so the information that is in this guide is still subject to change based on these patches. Of course, getting into it now, the Ippon Katana, which is the first katana kit, as I stated previously, is the weapon that most players playing Ninjala for the first time will start out with when they first boot up the game. The katanas are considered the standard baseline when it comes to the weapons in Ninjala. They have good speed, decent damage, and an overall kit that synergizes well with its abilities and special. It's a very easy weapon to learn for first-timers and has incredible potential in the hands of experienced ninjas too. I would say this is one of those weapons that you're just going to see no matter what because it's so versatile. So let's start by breaking down the weapon a little bit more. For starters, of course, we do have to take a look at the weapon parameters, but in order to do this, we need to actually select the Ippon Katana. So for you first-time ninjas, in order to do this, you need to be on the weapon select screen, which you can see here under, I went into equipment, so you're going to want to end up clicking that. And of course, by clicking on the top option, you'll then be able to choose from your variety of weapons to play with. For now, we're just going to highlight over the Ippon Katana, which is always going to be in the top left here. By pressing the plus button with the Ippon Katana highlighted, you'll bring up the weapon details page, which you can see now, and this is where you'll want to be so we can talk about the weapon's parameters. Taking a look at the bottom left on this screen, we can see that the katanas have the standard baseline of the weapon in Ninjala. They have 300 health and 100 movement speed. Like I said, this is the standard baseline for all katana-like weapons in the game. 300 health allows you to engage in fights without having to worry about making mistakes if you're brand new, and then 100 movement speed is nice as well because it will allow you to keep up with pretty much every other weapon in the game, whether they are faster or slower, even though there is a slight speed difference. So overall, the katanas have perfectly balanced stats, making them great for beginners. However, in Ninjala, it's not just about being able to fight and run all the time. There's also strategy in fighting in Ninjala, and you're not going to be able to make the most of it unless you rely on using your gum kit, special, and abilities. So let's talk about some of these things, of course, starting with the gum kit. For the Ippon Katana, the gum shoot on the gum kit is the gum launcher. Gum launcher, as many players already know, is a long-ranging projectile gum shot with decent homing abilities. But for the newer players out there, getting used to this gum shot is going to be very crucial and very important if you want to master the Ippon Katana. As I already said, the gum launcher is a long-ranging gum shoot that homes in onto your enemies. For you newer players, though, it's important to know that you're going to want to be using this gum shot as much as you can. You see, many of the gum shots in Ninjala, or gum shoots in Ninjala, apply what is called gum damage and stagger to your opponent. Gum damage is a hidden meter in the game's code that can be visualized on a player based on how much gum is stuck to the player. When a player receives too much gum damage, they'll be bound in place for a short while, unable to do anything until the bind breaks or an opponent breaks your bind. When your opponent is bound, this is your moment to strike and potentially get an Ippon. On top of this, outside of being bound, taking too much gum damage will also slow you down for a short period of time as well, and this is denoted by when you're really very close to being bound, you see like a bunch of gum like in between your character's legs, and it really slows down their movement overall. And also, I believe it also affects jump height, if I'm not mistaken. So be very careful about that. As for stagger, well, if a gum launcher hits an opponent, they'll be put into a few stun frames, allowing for a follow-up attack, provided, of course, you are in the range. But this is where the gum launcher excels, because without any external boosts from the Shinobi cards, which we will talk about later for you newer players and for more and more experienced players, it will always only take 2 gum launchers to bind an opponent without any external boosts. With a relatively low cooldown on top of that, the gum launcher is a fantastic tool to use throughout a match. Be careful though, because the gum launcher can not only be blocked by opponents, but it can be cancelled by other varying gum shots, such as gum net and gum laser. It's a great overall tool though for new players and can be utilized to its full extent with just a little bit of practice. But gum shoots aren't the only things in Ninjala that can help you score a KO or an Ippon, as we also have ultimates or ninjutsus, and the ninjutsu on the Ippon Katana is another fantastic tool for first timers. For the Ippon Katana's gum ninjutsu, we have the Ninja Tornado. The Ninja Tornado is a powerful one-hit special that deals massive damage to anyone touched by it. It can hit multiple opponents at once, making it great for multi-poning as well as keeping you safe. The Ninja Tornado also has the ability to break any size drone in the game, whether large or small, in a battle royale when activated. However, you do have to be aware if you are a newer player, because the drones in team battles actually have more HP normally. So one tornado in team battle will not actually break a drone. However, when you do activate Ninja Tornado, you are completely invincible until the tornado wears off. While the tornado is also active, you may move in any direction you'd like, except being able to go higher or lower relative to the ground. So it's best to think of the tornado in this way as more of a 2-dimensional ninjutsu rather than a 3-dimensional one. Despite only being able to move in the basic cardinal directions though, the hitbox on the tornado does indeed hit slightly above and below where the tornado is. A great tip for newer players with the Ninja Tornado is that to remember that the tornado can also only travel so far, so once it wears off, make sure the target you were aiming for is gone and you're at least decently safe before continuing the match. Eventually, of course, as you newer players practice more and more with the tornado, you'll get used to being able to activate it to make the most of it, so don't give up if you're getting beat up your first couple matches, because everybody has to start somewhere. However, we still have a lot more to talk about with the katanas aside from just the gum kits, so now for you newer players, we're going to move on to talking about the special and abilities of the katanas, which do indeed increase and synergize well with your gum kit. Now, for my more experienced players watching this guide, this next bit of information really isn't going to help you at all. But, of course, for the newer players watching this video out there, it's important to remember that the specials and abilities, at least on the same weapon class types, will always be the same. This, at the moment, could change at a later date, but so far it has not. So when you are playing a certain type of weapon, you are going to see the same special and abilities on that same class of weapon. So, with that being said, we're going to start with our special here on the katana, and honestly, this special is an incredible tool for new and experienced players alike. This special is known as Charging Slash. Charging Slash is a fast-moving armored strike that does about the same amount of damage as a katana's wide attack, which we'll get into talking about a bit later. Charging Slash is a single-hit, slightly tracking move, and it's good for not only mobility, but also combo extensions. When hitting any opponent at any time, provided Charging Slash is off cooldown, you can press the Y button and hit your opponent with it mid-combo and then continue your combo. Charging Slash is also a great engagement tool because it does get armor on it as well. With the armor on Charging Slash, you're able to move through or outright cancel certain normals or even other specials with its usage. However, it is not entirely invincible because while this attack does indeed have armor, it does not protect you from taking gum damage in any way, meaning that you can actually be bound out of a Charging Slash when you're using it. On top of that, Charging Slash also has very little homing ability, although it does have some homing ability, so it's best to use this ability when up close and in your opponent's face. As a mobility tool, Charging Slash is also a great escape option, keeping you protected while taking you a massive distance away from an engagement. Some of us experienced players even think Charging Slash is still a little bit broken, but honestly, the main reason we say that is just because it's a fantastic utility that can be used in a ton of situations and, of course, combo extensions. New and experienced players alike will get plenty of use out of this move, and with its relatively short cooldown, you'll be able to master this special in no time. But of course, with the special, brings us to the Katana's abilities. Now, for our newer Ninjala players watching this guide, it's important to know that your abilities are mainly passive boosts that often affect how you play the weapon itself. But for the Katana weapons, one ability is passive, the other is actually on activation. So, for our first ability, we have an ability known as Chakra, which is a very straightforward but extremely strong ability for the Katanas. Chakra fully will reset the cooldown of your special, which is your Charging Slash, after KOing an opponent. TLDR, defeat an opponent in any way, at any given time, you get your Charging Slash back. Yeah, it's really good. It's super good. It's super powerful, and like I said, Charging Slash is a nice engagement tool or combo extender, so this ability matches up to the special perfectly, and let me tell you, I think this right here is the ability why people say Katana is so broken, because of Chakra. Defeating the foe fully resets your special. All you need is one simple KO, and let me tell you, the combo routes we're going to be getting into later for you new and experienced players alike, they take advantage of this ability outright. But I can't get too far ahead of myself because we still have another ability to talk about for the Katanas, and this is the second ability, which is a big weapon exclusive ability known as Kamikaze, which, can I just say, is a very unfitting name. This is, I don't get it. I don't understand. I have no idea why it's called Kamikaze, but either way, Kamikaze increases your movement speed after you defeat an opponent with a Charging Slash. Combine this with the other ability Chakra, and as a Katana player, you can almost always have Charging Slash ready to use. Whether you end a combo with Charging Slash or not is ultimately up to you, but being able to move faster in any capacity is super good in a Battle Royale style game. So the abilities actually stack really well off the Katana specials rather nicely on the Katana. However, we don't just have one Katana we need to talk about. There is one more Katana I need to talk about, and it's the alternate kit of the Ippon Katana, the Scroll Blade. And for you newer players, this one might be a little bit harder for you to master than some. So the Scroll Blade, right here, as you can see, is without a doubt the harder of the two standard katanas to master. While it does indeed share the same special and abilities of its sister katana, the Ippon Katana, its gum kit is what makes this Scroll Blade harder to use. For the Scroll Blade's gum shoot, we have Gum Kunai. Gum Kunai are definitely one of the weaker gum shots in Ninjala. However, it did just get a recent buff in Season 5, which makes it all the more scary. It fires anywhere from 2 to 4 kunai out at your opponent, depending on the size of your gum bubble. They track your opponent, your nearest opponent, for a moment before being launched at them, and upon contact inflicts not only some gum damage, but stagger onto your opponent. Gum kunai, unfortunately, don't get too much homing while they are flying, making them very hard to use effectively. And now, for those wondering, I kind of wrote this script just before Season 5 released, so you will know that the Gum Kunai now have actually a little bit of increased homing ability and increased speed on certain things. So Gum Kunai have actually turned into a very decent gum shot at multiple ranges now. So for more newer and experienced players alike, this is going to be one of those gum shots that's just super fun to use. Anyways, kind of getting back on the topic here, you'll always want to try and use Gum Kunai in a close to mid-range fight. At any longer distance, the Kunai may, for one, may not reach your target, or they'll just maybe possibly fly by and miss. However, Gum Kunai does indeed have some advantages. Firstly, the Gum Kunai themselves each have an individual hitbox, meaning that each individual Kunai on the screen can potentially hit your opponent. Be careful with this though, because any of the Kunai that miss will not actually end up applying gum damage to your opponent, and you may lose a potential bind opportunity. However, Gum Kunai do have another advantage, and that is in their stagger potential. As I already said, the Gum Kunai each have their own individual hitbox, meaning that each one that hits an opponent will stagger them as well as applying gum damage, allowing you to follow up. This is extremely advantageous on a blocking opponent, as each Kunai that connects with your opponent will put them into a block stagger state. You can take advantage of this by using a break on them in the middle of the Kunai stagger to get a free bind on their block, but as I said, this can be kind of tough to pull off and will take some time for newer players to adjust to it. However, with a new adjustment of Gum Kunai, the medium Gum Kunai Gum Shot and the large Gum Kunai Gum Shot actually slightly increase the delay of the Gum Kunai launching. And that delay actually increases that stagger window a little bit more, so you have even more of an opportunity to put them into a break state. It's super, super good. But of course, for you newer players out there, I personally would not recommend starting with the Gum Kunai and the Scroll Blade until you're more comfortable with the game itself. But it's still important to know this information as you move forward in the game, especially when you want to basically counterplay against other weapons. But that will cover it for our Gum Shoot here on the Scroll Blade. Now we get to get into our Ninjutsu. And the Ninjutsu on the Scroll Blade, we have my personal favorite, Piercing Mixer. Piercing Mixer, while active, fires a constant beam of gum from a cake mixer, or a taffy mixer, I don't really know what it is, at your opponents. It's so powerful, Piercing Mixer can end up passing through multiple objects and even walls. Honestly, this is a fantastic ninjutsu. With Piercing Mixer, you have complete control over where it's aimed as well, making it more advantageous based on the skill of the player at using it. However, because of its power, Piercing Mixer does indeed have some weaknesses. For starters, Piercing Mixer doesn't stagger opponents like other ninjutsu, so having good aim and good reaction time is key to making this ninjutsu work right as well. Another weakness that the Piercing Mixer has is that this ninjutsu is not invincible like some other ninjutsus in the game. While using Piercing Mixer, you are completely vulnerable to attack while using it. Getting hit in any way with the mixer will immediately cancel it, so you want to be in a safe location before using it. You can't be too safe though with Piercing Mixer, because the Piercing Mixer isn't an immediate full stage beam. Piercing Mixer actually takes longer to reach further away targets because it actually has to travel that distance before applying any damage. I always like to say that a good tip for the Piercing Mixer is to use it not only in a mid-range scenario, but use it up high or in a well-hidden spot on a stage at mid-range to make the most out of its damage. Because honestly, at longer range, you're not going to get nearly as many Ippons as you can at mid-range, and it's very important to keep yourself hidden while using Mixer as well to make the most out of that damage. But with that being said, that is actually going to cover it for both the kits of the Katanas. So in the next section of the video, I'm actually going to go over the attacks of the Katanas, as well as showing off some combos that new and experienced players alike can pull off. When it comes to combos, Katanas have plenty of options. With the speed of their attacks as well as unique animations for each attack, the Katanas are a solid choice for learning any form of combat in Ninjala, for new and experienced players alike. They have incredible versatility in being able to create their own unique combo strings that will always vary from player to player, but in order to do this, you need to know how their attacks work. But of course, for those of you who are new to Ninjala who just started playing for the first time, there's a couple things you need to know. For my experienced players, this information isn't going to be as useful to you, but for you newer players, something to always note is that you can always break attacks down into 4 different types. You have normals, back attacks, wide attacks, and break attacks. You can always tell the indication of which kind of attack is being used on you, because normal attacks will always appear blue, back attacks will always appear green, wide attacks will always appear orange, and break attacks are often denoted with quick motion lines with a combination of some yellow as well. But with a weapon like the Katana, each individual attack for its normals in any kind have unique. They are unique compared to some of the other heavier weapons in the game. So its normals, backs, and wides, I actually have to go over, of course, starting with the normal attacks. Normal attacks are performed simply by hitting the ZR button on your controller. There are always 3 attacks before a 4th finishing blow that will send your opponents flying backwards more than the other attacks, with unique combo animations, of course. Some weapons, of course, do not have this ability, which you'll find out as you get better at the game and learn different weapons, which I've already made plenty of guides for already. So if you're interested in checking out some of my other weapon guides, feel free to give those a watch after this video as well. In fact, there's an entire playlist of Ninjala weapon guides for that as well. But anyways, back to our attacks. For our normal attacks on katanas, we have 4 attacks. Normal 1 is a diagonal swing downward from left to right. Normal 2 then goes horizontal and swings from left to right. Normal 3 has your character perform a sword uppercut from the right to the left. And finally, the normal finisher, or normal 4, is a vertical swing straight downward. Of course, for anyone just getting used to Ninjala, this ZR button is the button you're going to be hitting a bunch when you start out. You can KO opponents with these normal attacks if you keep pressing ZR, but eventually you'll want to change up your combo strings to KO your opponents faster. If you're just starting out though, normals are going to be your go-to attack string, and you can technically and like I said, end an opponent with it. So like if I walked up the van here and just continued to press the ZR button, eventually he will go down if that hit, but it didn't hit because he would have went down. But you get the point. Shinobi City, it do be like that. However, as I said, there are more than just normal attacks in Ninjala. We also, of course, have back attacks. Back attacks are attacks that can often cause your player to teleport behind your opponent, a la Nothing Personnel Kid, before striking them down. These attacks can be performed by pressing ZR and tilting your control stick either to the left or right at the same time. There are 4 back attacks in total, and once again, these attacks are denoted by green motion lines. Back 1 will teleport you behind your opponent before landing a horizontal slash that hits from right to left. Back attack number 2 does the same thing as back attack number 1, but the direction of the slash is reversed. Back 3 once again teleports you behind your opponent before delivering a slash uppercut, and then the back finisher, or back 4, performs one more teleport attack before finishing with a downward slash. Now, if you're new to the game, you should note that the back attacks, as you can probably tell, are slower than normal attacks, and they can be blocked much quicker than just standard normal attacks. It's also important to note that engaging with the back attack or engaging with a left-right attack isn't always the best idea if you're a new player, because players can often dash away from it or move left or right to dodge your back attack, leaving you wide open to a counterattack. So it's important to know that you can mix and match your normals into back attacks, kind of like this, what I'm doing right now, for a small little combo, and you can change it up while also keeping your opponent kind of locked into that stun state, and that's very important for later down the line when we talk about the rest of the combos in this section, which I will be changing the map for, but I'm in Shinobi City because I like Shinobi City. It's very aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, so always note that back attacks are going to be a little bit tougher to land on your opponents, especially moving opponents, because they can just move if you are a newer player. But we do have to talk about our next type of attacks, and these type of attacks, although they have unique animations, are a little bit different, and these attacks are known as wide attacks. The main difference between normal backs and wide attacks is that, unlike normal and back attacks, wide attacks you cannot chain together properly to make a 4-hit combo. Wide attacks are mainly known as finishing moves in combos and can often do the most damage out of all the moves on the weapons that have unique animation strings. Wide attacks are also considered to be AoE attacks, or area of effect attacks, meaning they can hit multiple people around you while also protecting you. In order to get the wide attacks individually, if you are a newer player, you have to perform either a normal or back attack first, then follow it up with the wide attack. As you probably already guessed, these attacks are performed while pressing the ZR button while holding the control stick in the downward direction. So because of this, I have to number the wide attacks a little bit differently. For wide attacks, each wide attack number is related to the corresponding number of normal and or back attacks you need to perform before that specific wide attack comes out. So starting off, we have Wide Zero, which doesn't need any attack inputs prior to using it. Wide Zero has your ninja perform a circular swing around you, hitting everything in the immediate area, including people who might be slightly above or below you. Wide number 1 is similar to Wide number 0 in the form of the circle slash, but Wide 1 is angled more downward at your opponent's feet. Something to note that's very interesting about Wide Attack 1 is because of the angle, there's actually a bigger vertical hitbox on Wide 1 behind you rather than in front of you when this attack comes out, protecting your back even more than some of the other wide attacks that the Katanas have. Wide 2 is a smaller AoE compared to Wide 0 and Wide number 1, but your ninja is pretty much invulnerable from all sides when this attack is going off, as you use your Shinobi powers to push back opponents with an upward spiral thrust. And finally, we have Wide 3, which is a quick flurry of slashes that, despite looking like it's a multi-hit move, actually only hits your opponent once. However, the hitbox on this wide attack is active until the animation fully finishes, so people can accidentally walk into it and then possibly get hit into a combo. And that's pretty much it for all the basic moves on the Katanas, but I want to bring up the break attacks for the newer players that might be watching this video. You see, far too often I see newer players not really understanding what the break attack is meant to be used for, so I'm going to explain it a bit more in depth than the tutorial does, than the new Ninjala Season 5 tutorial does, which, by the way, is a really good tutorial, for you newer players. Make sure you guys pay attention when you guys are playing that tutorial. Or when you did play the tutorial, because you're probably watching this video after you played the tutorial, but you get it anyways. The break attack mainly is used for guard breaking. Break attacks are on every single weapon in the game of Ninjala, and they all have various speeds and animations depending on the weapon they are on. They should only be used when an opponent is guarding with their gun bubble, or if they go into what I call a burst stance. While your opponent is in either state, you can bind them and follow up with a combo. I often see too many newer players spamming the break attack, hoping to catch someone off guard, but they can't capitalize on it because they end up knocking their opponents away by spamming it. The break attack takes timing and patience and carefully watching what your opponent does. Eventually, newer players, of course, will get good at being able to get what are known as break reads and truly take advantage of that opening. But for now, for you newer players, you should look out for players who go into the burst stance. And when they go into a burst stance, you should hit R when they do. For reference, I'm actually going to show you what the burst stance looks like. So we're going to show that off. And then also note that there is a sound cue involved with the burst, so listen and watch closely. Did you hear the sound cue? Good, because in the next section, we're actually going to be moving on to my favorite part of the video, and it's going to be showing off some combos. But before we get there, I do want to mention one other thing about the break attack, and I mentioned how it knocks away. For you newer players out there, if you end up spamming the R button, doing this too much will knock players. I completely forgot to set Van off S-Burst. That's fine. We can still fix this. Okay, now that I put Van off S-Burst, allow me to show you actually what I mean by break attack spamming. Far too often, I will see newer players just rapidly spam the R button kind of like this. But you notice after the second R button that my opponent goes flying away with a gray reticle. When your opponent goes flying away with this gray reticle, you have actually dropped the combo and you're not actually going to be able to continue it. Various weapons and various attacks have varying levels of knockback, but break attacks always have the most knockback out of any weapon. So you always want to be using break attacks mainly as a reading tool to read your opponent rather than just spamming it, because if you knock your opponent away, they're going to be able to escape or potentially counterattack you with that. The only exception of this is if you break attack your opponent multiple times into a wall, which leads into a wall splat, which can lead into some follow-up scenarios. But anytime you see that gray reticle, you are going to end up dropping the combo. But with that out of the way, that will cover everything for the basic attacks. So now we can move on to the combo section of the video. Do you want to know why I love showing off the combos in these weapon guides? Well, it's mainly because I get to flex a little bit of my Ninjala knowledge and take everything I've learned throughout the previous 4 seasons of Ninjala and apply it into these guides. And it's also because these combos are cool as f***. So, to start off this section, of course, of the combos. I'm going to start off light and easy like I always do, and then get more complex with the later combos. For those players who are just picking up Ninjala for the first time, I recommend that you 100% practice these recommended combos in the training range as much as you can, or even feel free to make your own combos and experiment with the moves in these combo strings that I'm going to show you to maybe form some of your own combos. But as always, we are going to start basic. So, here is the basic flow for the Katana. It's a very simple combo, and a combo a lot of newer players are going to want to use. I am going to be using my Y button here, the charging slash, in this combo. So definitely take note of when that is going to be used in the combo. I'm also going to be attacking a hammer known as a drumbeat or iron noise, which I always do in these weapon guides, and I will explain why a little bit later for you newer players after I complete this first combo. But for the first combo, here is what you're going to do. To start, you're going to start with 2 normal ZR attacks if you are playing Katana. Remember, normal attacks are blue, so you are going to start this combo with 2 normal ZR attacks. Following that, you are then going to go into your charging slash, so you're going to then hit your Y. After that, you are going to go into a back attack, which remember for your newer players is going to be green, so you're going to hit left, right, ZR. Then you're going to just let go of the stick and once again press the ZR button. And finally, you're going to pull down on the stick and press ZR one more time to finish the combo off with a wide attack. And of course, this wide attack is going to be represented as orange. Now, for my newer players out there, of course, this combo might take a while for you to get used to. You see, if you mash during a combo, the move you'll need is more than likely not going to come out during these combos. However, with practice, this is actually a very easy combo to pull off. Now, of course, for those of you who haven't seen my other Ninjala weapon guides, or those who are watching the Katana weapon guide, and this is basically your first guide into the weapons for Ninjala, you'll know that I pull all of these combos off on the Sound Hammer class of weapon. The main reason I do this is because they have the most health in the game, and they often will actually need an extra hit or two at the end of the combo to KO them. However, with the Katana, we're actually able to incorporate that extra hit early within the first 2 normal ZRs of the combo. Of course, if this combo is pulled off correctly, it does indeed KO any weapon in the game if fully pulled off. However, if your opponent does not have a hammer class weapon of any kind, it doesn't matter if it's a sound hammer or a normal hammer or a Popeye hammer, which I will be covering in a previous guide, you can remove one of those first ZR attacks. Instead of doing ×2, just swing once, and it will KO them as well. So that's super important to note. For the next combo, we're going to incorporate a double gum shoot, as more often than not in Ninjala, you'll mainly engage with a gum shoot first on your opponent before setting them up for the later bind mid-combo. For you newer players, this is going to be a trickier combo to pull off much more than the first, as I'm also not only going to incorporate gum shots into this combo, but also incorporate a jump cancel. For those who do not know what a jump cancel is, a jump cancel occurs right after you hit an opponent. Instead of waiting for the downtime on the animation to finish, you can actually jump after the hit connects to continue the combo, as you can see here. So like I get the hit, and the moment the hit connects, I can jump. So that is going to be a jump cancel. This combo route as well will bind whether or not you have a big weapon or a small weapon as well, so it's a nice combo to use in all situations. For you newer players, once again, please pay very close attention to where I jump and where I use these gum shots. So, here's the combo. To start off, you are going to start off by gum shooting your opponent with the gum launcher. You're going to hold ZL to inflate a bubble, and then hit ZR to use your gum shot. You'll notice in the combo section of this video, I will always label gum shot with GS. So you're going to start this combo off with a gum shot. Following the gum shot, you are then going to go into 2 normal attacks. After the 2 normal attacks, you are then going to go into 1 back attack. After that back attack, you are then going to do a wide attack, a downward ZR. After that wide attack connects, you are then going to jump out of that wide attack after the connect, go into another gum shot in the middle of this combo. If your opponent is a hammer, you do need to swing ZR at least 1 time here. But other than that, if your opponent is not a hammer, you can just press the Y button to finish them off. This is just a nice, clean, standard combo. It utilizes everything the Katanas have to their full potential, and for you newer players, this will, of course, take some getting used to, but you can see the results are an Ippon, which, of course, will net you more points than a KO. As I already mentioned, I threw that extra hammer hit in right before the charging slash, because you're always going to want to end this combo with the charging slash. The reason you want to end this combo with the charging slash is because of the abilities on the Katana we talked about earlier, Chakra and Kamikaze. It's important to get used to not only the speed boost you will get when you have a big weapon with the Kamikaze ability, but by ending a combo with charging slash, because it KO'd or Ippon'd an opponent, you'll get your charging slash immediately back for your next combo as well. It's super, super important, and because charging slash always has a relatively short cooldown anyway, combining the Chakra and Kamikaze abilities, you're always going to have this ability ready for your next combo string. However, I do have to note, with the Scroll Blade, the other variation of the Katana, you actually have to be a little bit more patient and wait until the third kunai on the first set of kunai starts moving towards your opponent, or they will not be off cooldown in time for the jump cancel gum shot. On top of that, you also have to delay the attacks slightly on the Scroll Blade to guarantee yourself that bind. After the jump cancel on it hammers, though, with the gum kunai on the Scroll Blade, you want to quickly fire them off after the jump cancel, then stagger your opponent with a normal attack for that bind. As I said earlier, the Scroll Blade is a more precise and patient weapon compared to the Ippon Katana, so keep that in mind when trying to perform this combo with it, and I'll show you the Scroll Blade variation of the combo I just performed now. Notice, of course, how much more patient you have to be with the Scroll Blade variation of that second combo that I just showed you, other than using the gum launcher. And that's mainly just because of the properties of the kunai, where you do have to wait for them to kind of approach your opponent at a decently slow rate. And then, even then, I don't always get it, but you do have to wait for those kunai to hit to really get the bind. That's really the big important thing. Something I'd also like to note as well, as much like the last combo or the first combo I showed you, you can remove one of those front dual ZR attacks and still be able to perform this combo and get a KO on the other weapons that aren't hammers as well. So just by removing that, you can add it into later in the combo and hopefully still have the bind with both weapons as well. So just make sure to practice those combos when you get into them. Now, for our third combo, we're gonna get into some pretty dangerous and controversial territory and use a combination of two, I should say, notorious Shinobi cards, which I will be bringing up in the next section of this video. These two Shinobi cards, of course, stack with one another and can guarantee some binds with a small weapon you wouldn't normally see. The catch? You have to be near a wall for it to work. And the way you start this combo will also determine if this combo will work. So, for this combo, you're going to need the Shinobi cards Wall Shooter and the Shinobi card Stealing Hyena, both with the gum damage up assist code. Wall Shooter increases the amount of gum damage you do while standing on a wall with the gum damage up assist code. And Stealing Hyena increases gum damage on opponents with less than 50% health. So, there are two ways to actually start off this combo section, and it really just depends on the starter move. If you are facing a wall, you are going to want to just normally hit ZR. However, if you are facing away from a wall, or there is a wall with your, or you have a wall toward your back, you are going to want to start with a back attack to obviously get behind your opponent. But the rest of this combo is pretty self-explanatory after that. The only catch, like I said, is you have to be moving toward a wall for this combo to work. So I'm going to actually show you both variations of these combos, one toward a wall and one away from a wall. So we're going to start with the one going toward a wall. So the combo is going to be as follows. While moving toward a wall, you're going to start with ZR, then follow that into a wide attack, a downward ZR. Following that, provided you are playing against a hammer, you are going to then hit ZR twice, ZR once if they are not a hammer. Then, following that, you are going to then press the L button, which is your dash. You're going to dash toward the direction of the wall and make sure you land on that wall. At this point, your opponent should be relatively below 50% health or right at that threshold. So after you get onto the wall, you are then going to excuse me, you are then going to gum shoot your opponent. Following the gum shoot on your opponent, which should bind them, you are then going to dash at them with your charging slash, and then finish them off with a wide attack. The same thing can apply away from the wall as well. Like I said, you just start this combo while a wall is to your back. So let me show you this combo now. Now, what's really cool about this combo is that you can set it up in almost any way once you have a big weapon. But with a small weapon, even with a maxed out Stealing Hyena and Wall Shooter, both with a gum damage up assist code, if you are not standing on the wall at all with a small weapon, this combo will not bind. Once you get a big weapon and a big bubble, though, it's much easier to get binds due to Stealing Hyena doing more gum damage when your opponents are under 50% health. When performing this combo with a small weapon, there are also a variety of things to keep in mind. For one, you're always going to want to know the direction of your nearest wall and how close you are to it. If you aren't close enough to your opponent or the wall, they'll be able to escape the combo. However, if you're too close, your opponent could wall splat, which will also maybe drop the combo now because they changed the stagger mechanic. So let me know if the wall splat actually drops the combo now or if it doesn't. That's a very important thing to note because there was a change in Season 5 of how stagger works. So if someone knows that, because I haven't been able to get a solid wall splat for this combo in the training range consistently, please let me know in the comments section below. So that's also really important. And of course, on top of this, you'll have to know which attack to engage your opponent with if they aren't near a wall. And if you are near a wall, you'll want to start with a left-right attack. If they're close to the wall, like I said, you'll want to use a normal. But you never, ever want to start this combo with a wide attack. For a new, for my newer players out there, the reason you do not want to start this combo with a wide attack is because wide attacks always pop your opponents into the air, as well as creating an AoE around you. Wide attacks can be incredibly tough to chain together, although it is possible, and they are often slow enough where people can actually escape after being hit with 2 wide attacks, despite the damage they actually do. So that's why you don't want to engage with the wide unless your opponent is on low health. The final thing I have to say about this combo, though, is that it involves the charging slash's placement inside this combo. The reason charging slash is not actually at the end of this combo is because charging slash does not break a gum bind. I'm pretty sure a lot of people already know this, but for my new players out there who don't know this, every single wide attack in the game that isn't a multi-hit, like ones found on certain hammers, will actually break your opponent's gum bind if you hit them with a wide. So you'll want to keep them stuck in the bind longer to get that wide finisher, because it's still going to reset the cooldown on your charging slash anyway after you claim the Ippon. But that's all I have to say about this combo, so let's move on now to our final combo. Now this combo is going to involve the incredible power of the big weapon Stealing Hyena combo, and it works on every single katana every time. So let's just get right into it. To start this combo, you are going to start this combo, whether you're playing Scrollblade or Ippon Katana, with a charging slash. Following that charging slash, you are then going to go into a downward ZR. After the wide attack hits on the downward ZR, you're going to then jump cancel into your gum shot. If you are playing a Scrollblade specifically for this combo, you are going to want to hit ZR after you shoot the gum shot, or you will not get the bind here. And then after you get the bind, you're just going to hit the X button and run into them with a tornado, or destroy them with the mixer, depending on the weapon you're playing. So, let me show you that combo now. As you can see, this is an incredibly simple combo. The ninjutsus themselves are enough to easily remove around 285 health from any target in the game. Of course, this means the Ippon Katana can just hit about any weapon with a hammer once. and get a free Ippon out of it, but due to the tornado. But there's nothing like being super flashy to flex on your opponent and make them rethink messing with you for the rest of the match after you hit them with one of these ninjutsu combos. You may notice, though, that for this combo, the scroll blade, like I mentioned, needs that extra hit, normal hit before the ninjutsu. And the only reason it actually needs this is to account for the kunai tracking and the kunai travel distance. Because too often at close ranges, like I mentioned earlier, the gum kunai will miss and not bind. So adding one extra normal here staggers your opponent backwards, allowing the gum kunai to hit while your opponent is in this staggered state for a bind. So, whether you are a new or experienced player in the game of Ninjala, I hope you guys enjoyed this combo section of the video, because that is actually going to do it for the combo section of the video. And in the next section of the video, I'm going to be talking about the Shinobi cards you should equip with your katana, whether you're a new or an old player, as well as discussing some of the katana's weaknesses. But, of course, before I move on to that, I want to make a little note once again for our newer Ninjala players out there. Remember to practice these combos in matches and in the training range. You are not going to get any better at performing these combos if you don't practice these as much as you can. Even still, you can, even if you're a newer player or a more experienced player, get a few friends together in a party lobby, in a private match, and practice against each other too. I'm sure you'll be a fantastic katana player in no time, definitely, if you do these things. But with that being said, let's move on to our final section of the video. Now, the katanas are all-rounders. They can do pretty much anything they want, whenever they want in the game of Ninjala. But you can make them even better with just a few Shinobi card adjustments. You can make the katanas feel like the most broken weapon in the game, even though I really don't personally think it is. People may say it is, but that's because of the more experienced players using it to its full potential, and unfortunately they run into some newer players, and then the newer players complain that the katana is too strong. It do be like that sometimes. But katanas aren't that broken. They are a good starting weapon. But, on the other hand, how do you make the katanas an unstoppable powerhouse? How do experienced players potentially build their katanas to make them this unstoppable powerhouse? Well, I'm going to tell you. For one, you're going to want to run the Shinobi card Wall Shooter with the first 2 assist codes. The first assist code shortens the cooldown time of your gum shoot while standing on a wall. And of course, combining this with the second assist code, Gum Damage Up, you can basically play like a spider all match if you wanted. And just be on the walls and gum shoot them consistently and do lots of damage. The combination of these 2 assist codes is incredibly powerful, but it does have 2 weaknesses that I will be bringing up momentarily. However, before I get into talking about the weaknesses of the katanas themselves or possibly the Shinobi cards, I do have to continue my Shinobi card recommendations. And for once, I am going to advocate for Stealing Hyena again with as many assist codes as you can throw on it. From increasing movement speed toward players with low health while running toward them, to increasing additional gum damage on players with less than 50% health, to increasing the range that you can see opponents with less than 50% health. This is, without a doubt, I think one of the best cards in the game right now. And although it did technically get nerfed where your opponents do need to be below 50% health to use Stealing Hyena, yes, believe it or not, you did not used to have your opponent below 50% health to use this assist code, but now you do. But luckily, the combos still work that I come up with Stealing Hyena because they're fantastic. But yeah, there's no shame in running Stealing Hyena as a card, as its buffs only activate when your opponent's not only in a certain range, but also, of course, they have to be lower than that 50% health. Many people think this card is still broken, but once again, the players knowing how to use it will set up combos to take advantage of the assist codes. Honestly, that's the whole thing with Shinobi cards in this game, is knowing how to use them more effectively in combo strings is going to make it seem like a very, very broken card. Now, for my final recommendation, as my Shinobi card for the katanas, I'm actually going to recommend Two-Edged Parry. Now, we don't know if the S-Blast will ever take over S-Burst in Ninjala. S-Blast was more of a reset to neutral rather than the current parry system we have now. But with the current burst system in place, the card Two-Edged Parry on Katana is actually extremely useful. You see, unlike some other weapons in the game, katanas, when they enter a parry state, do not get super armor in any way when they force someone to parry them. This means they're already at a disadvantage in a parry when parrying with other weapons that have super armor in the game. So by running 2-edged parry, I recommend running the first 2 assist codes to assist with helping you win this parry scenario. Of course, you still have to win the parry scenario, but these 2 extra assist codes on 2-edged parry will help massively, and they recently just got buffed in Season 5 as well. These assist codes specifically will drain you and your opponent's health when you enter a parry state by the same amount, but by running another assist code on the 2-edged parry card, you're actually going to lose less health during the 2-edged parry than your opponent does. It's really weird to say, but you'll see what it's explainable, I guess. It's a tongue twister. So basically, what ends up happening is while you guys will lose the same amount, you're actually going to lose less and your opponent's going to lose more due to that second assist code. This can set up a free Ippon for the Katana with just 1 parry win. Now, of course, while 2-edge parry is my final recommendation for more experienced players playing Ninjala, I'd like to mention a card more specifically built for newer players. And now, this card is the card you actually start out with in Ninjala, known as Sudden Burst. Sudden Burst is a safety tool for new players when you are out of S energy. This card allows you to force burst once per life, which might end up saving you in the long run. As a new player though, please be aware of players who look out for those specific burst breaks, which I showed a little bit earlier in the video. Just because that ZL button pops up on your screen when you get hit does not mean you should press ZL to save you. In fact, I think that's why new players are often turned off by the parry system in this game, and because of that, potentially they're turned off from the game because they hit ZL and they get broken every time and get bodied. But they have to learn. And, you know, there's a learning experience for all new players coming into a game, especially in a game like Ninjala, which has so many mechanics. But basically, what I like to think is the newer players interpret that ZL button prompt that appears on the screen when you get hit to, it's like a safety net to get out of the situation, when in reality, it's giving you a notification that, hey, I can press this button and potentially survive. Mixing up your timing with the Sudden Burst card as a new player is essential. You do not want to activate it the moment you see that ZL button pop on the screen. So, just big tip for you new players, don't do it if you see it pop up. Change the timing. Because if you don't have the Sudden Burst, it still costs 5 units of S energy to parry, so make sure you change up that timing. But with that being said, that is actually going to cover it for the Shinobi cards, so let's now talk about some Katana weaknesses. Going back to the point I made about the wall shooter, many people say that this card is broken because it's too easy to bind people with it at higher levels. Now, while yes, at higher levels this card can indeed get an insta-bind, you have to bear in mind Ninjala at times, and you know, when you're not playing teams, it's a battle royale. Getting hit in the back with a wall shooting insta-bind shouldn't be a surprise in a free-for-all. So I honestly don't understand where this hate is coming from, unless this hate is coming from teams, which I can totally understand. But another thing that people don't really understand is that people who often try and engage with someone who has wall shooter, you know, they'll often lose in a direct engagement. The thing with wall shooter is that it can be blocked. In 1v1s, wall shooters, I think personally, wall shooters actually at its weakest, and it's an extremely predictable playstyle unless a player mixes it into their combos strings like I showed you earlier. If you see a person standing on a wall with their gum shot out, block. Hold that ZL button and block. Wall shooters can indeed be blocked, and it can save you from that insta-bind scenario in so many ways. Too many people I see often neglect playing defensively in Ninjala, and this is a huge part of the combat, and it's for this exact reason that those players complain about wall shooters the most. Now, with Gum Kunai, you obviously want to be more careful because of the block stagger pressure that it can apply, but there are often other alternatives instead of just blocking. Moving around a corner away from a wall shooter, gum boosting away, hiding behind a drone to protect you from the wall shooter, and even canceling out the wall shooter with a more powerful gum shot like Gum Net or Gum Laser. These are all techniques and things you can do to stop wall shooter users. So please keep this in mind. Anyways, that's my rant about wall shooter and why it's not broken. So let's talk about something a bit more focused around the Katana, which is a big weakness of the Katana, known as Chase Down. Now, certain moves when performed at a distance on multiple weapons in Ninjala will initiate this special Chase Down animation. As a Katana, you'll want to be absolutely sure you're in attack range to avoid long distance chase downs. While in this quote-unquote chase down animation, you are 100% vulnerable. You can't block, you can't dash, you can't get out of it until the chase down finishes. And this is a big weakness of the Katana and other weapons that have the chase down mechanic, because every attack on the Katana can actually activate this chase down animation. So it's very important to engage your opponents at proper distance. Not all weapons in the game have this chase down animation on every attack, but the Katana is one that does have this chase down animation on every attack. Now, and it's because of this technique that I find too many newer players relying on the chase down for longer range, and it's something you're definitely going to want to avoid in the future as you, level up your experience in Ninjala. And the main reason you want to avoid this chase down mechanic is because while you can't do anything in it, someone can just shoot a gum shot at you while you're in this chase down and potentially bind you. And that's the biggest thing you want to avoid. Or you could get hit with ninjutsu, that'll just insta-Ippon you. So there's a lot of reasons you want to engage effectively at distance and try and avoid this chase down mechanic at long ranges. But other than that, the Katanas really don't have too many other weaknesses. They're definitely the most beginner-friendly weapon in Ninjala, and while it's always going to be the default weapon for every new player starting the game, they're always going to be an easy to pick up weapon with a very high skill ceiling for those who wish to master it. And of course, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. This, without a doubt, has definitely been the longest Ninjala weapon guide I've worked on, but I wanted to try and jam-pack this one with as much information as possible to cater not only to our more experienced players of Ninjala, but of course our new players too. And with the influx of players we're definitely seeing in Season 5 so far with the new tutorial mode, this is just a perfect guide for them to start out with, and that's the reason I wanted to jam-pack this guide with as much information as I could. But, of course, if you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor and hit that like button, as well as leaving a comment and letting me know what your favorite part of the video was. Your feedback is absolutely invaluable, and I use all of it to improve the channel as it moves forward. I'd also like to ask everybody once again to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next Ninjala or Nintendo related video I put up on the channel, as I do have some exciting things planned for the rest of this year, and it would mean a lot to me if you guys would hit that subscribe button, as we're also trying to reach the big channel goal of 5,000 subscribers this year by the end of 2021. We can definitely get there if the 67% of you who aren't subscribed to the channel actually hit that subscribe button. But, of course, that's really all I have to say about the guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And of course, until then, this is CAJ Man 777 signing off. Stay safe, everybody.